ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله قاصم الجبارين نذير الظالمين مدرك الحاضرين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي سمي في السماوات بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين. روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم ملعونين. Amma ba'd, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the Shahada, Ulama, Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam, Arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one who's Rahman and one who's Rahim. Firstly, I'd like to apologize for being late. Unfortunately, the M25 got the better of me this time round. Inshallah, from tomorrow we'll be on time, as the commuting distance is only around the corner. The coming Majlis will look to analyze the various number different topics that are surrounded around Karbala, around Sayyid al-Shuhada. But the starting point that I want to start with this lecture is that what is it that we've gained from those 10 nights that we spent, or those 12 nights that we spent mourning for Abu Abdullah? What is it that has changed in my life? Am I exactly the same as I was 12 nights ago, 10 nights ago? Is the only thing that has occurred within my life, the only change that has come in my life, is maybe a bruised chest, maybe a cut back, maybe dried eyes, a cut head? Is that all that I've achieved from those 10 nights of mourning for Abu Abdullah? Or is it that I've achieved more? Because the whole purpose of Sayyid al-Shuhada going to Karbala was not just that I weep over him once a year, was not just that I get together and I mourn for him once a year, but rather his purpose was far greater. The purpose of Sayyid al-Shuhada was one of reformation, was one of change. He writes to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya in that letter that he leaves with him in Medina. He says, وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتَ لَطَلَبِ الْأَصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي. Says, I'm going out in order to seek reform in the ummah of my grandfather. أريد أن أعمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر وأصير بسيرة جدي وأبي علي بن أبي طالب. I'm going to do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar by walking upon the path of my grandfather and my father Ali. The whole purpose of Karbala, the whole idea of Karbala, the whole reason for Sayyid al-Shuhada going to Karbala is for reformation. If I have not been able to reform myself, year in, year out, I come and I listen to the Majlis, and there is not a single thing that has changed within my life, there is nothing positive that has come about within my life, then everything that Sayyid al-Shuhada went to Karbala for has been wasted. At least on a personal level. Because I haven't changed, I haven't developed, I haven't progressed. Because the whole purpose of Karbala is progression, is development, is to awaken a better human being that is inside. Sayyid al-Shuhada is not just reserved to the azar. Sayyid al-Shuhada is not just reserved to the tears, and we'll talk about tears and the azadari of Sayyid al-Shuhada towards the end, as to its importance. But that is a byproduct of what Imam al-Hussein went to Karbala for. He went to reform this ummah, went to bring about a change, a tangible change. And if I cannot say that there is one thing I've removed from my life as a result of Karbala, then I haven't understood Karbala. If I still suffer from jealousy, if I still suffer from the disease of pride, if I still find myself lying, if I still find myself backbiting about other people, if I still find myself slandering other people, if I still find myself in this position where I am totally unaware of my spiritual development, then Karbala has been wasted for me. It hasn't been a change, it hasn't been something that is positive for me. I have to look at my life, I have to analyze it. That all those sacrifices that Abu Abdullah gave, all of those things that Abu Abdullah gave in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gave for the path of Allah, what benefit has it been to me? If I haven't changed my life, I still have an opportunity. I still have the opportunity to hold on to the door of Abu Abdullah. Sheikh Ja'far Shushtari says that if an individual did not manage to enter into Shahr Ramadan through the door of Tawbah and was unable to be forgiven in Shahr Ramadan and change his life in Shahr Ramadan, then let him in Muharram grab hold of the door of Abu Abdullah and go towards Allah through the door of Imam al-Hussein. Because when he goes through the door of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that allows him to get closer to Allah quicker, faster. This is why the narration says in al-Hussein, Misba'ul Huda wa Safinatun Najah, that Hussein is the ark, is the lantern of guidance and the ark of salvation. Someone comes to the 8th Imam and says to the Imam, Yabna Rasulullah, are you not all arks of salvation? Are you not all lanterns of guidance? He says, yes, we are. Kulluna sufunun najah. We are all arks of salvation. Amma Safinatul Hussein. But the ark of Abu Abdullah is far vaster, it is faster, it can take more people quicker towards salvation than any of us. Because Imam al-Hussein gave everything for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for this religion, for this reformation. And if I haven't been able to reform, if I haven't been able to change, if I haven't been able to develop myself, then that whole message, all that sacrifice, all the death, the death of Ali Asghar, the death of Ali Akbar, the death of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, all of that was in vain. Because I have just thought that my life is enough, that I can just simply say Ya Hussein and then that is it, and everything is sorted. But it isn't, because Sayyid al-Shuhada needs more from us. He needs that development. When we look at the reasons for Karbala, one of the best letters is the one that Imam Hussein writes to the people of Basra. Before Muslim ibn Aqil goes to Kufa, Imam Hussein alayhi salam writes a letter to the people of Basra and sends it with his representative Sulaiman. Sulaiman goes to Basra, and Ibn Ziyad Mal'un is still in Basra at that moment. He hasn't moved across to Kufa. He hasn't made that shift. At the moment he is the governor of Basra. When that letter reaches, the people gather around the representatives of Sayyid al-Shuhada, and they take him to Ibn Ziyad and he's killed. But what that letter that Sayyid al-Shuhada sent to the people of Basra say, what it says is, عَلَى وَإِنَّ السُنَّةَ قَدْ أُمِيتَتْ وَإِنَّ الْبِدْعَةَ قَدْ أُحْيِيَتْ. Says, you should know that the sunnah of my grandfather, of Rasulullah, has been killed. وَإِنَّ الْبِدْعَةَ قَدْ أُحْيِيَتْ. And innovation has become rife within society. First and foremost, the reason for Karbala is the destruction, the annihilation of the sunnah of the Prophet. I need to ask myself, what is my relationship with the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet? How much of the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet do I find within my life? Have I implemented within my life? Then the second thing is innovation. The extent to which innovation has become rife within society. In that society, the biggest innovation was what? Imamate became Khilafat, Khilafat became monarchy. That those that were the usurpers took the right of Ahlul Bayt, and they sat upon the seats that were rightfully the seats of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That was the biggest innovation. But now what about myself, my society, my place? Because those individuals that killed the representative of Sheikh, those individuals that killed Sayyid al-Shuhada are those whom had left the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet, had not adhered to the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet. And so as a result, they were ready to kill the grandson of the Holy Prophet. They brought innovations within society. What are those innovations that we have within ourselves? Within our form of religion? This namesake, this thing that we call a religion, and we pin all our hopes on it, our aims and objectives are based around that. But in reality, is it the true religion of the Holy Prophet? Is it the religion that the Holy Prophet brought down to us? Or is it that we have dressed it up, we have removed parts and dressed it up in cultural guise, in cultural clothing? And so now we can't see what the true Islam is. And that is one of the biggest problems that we face right now. One of the biggest reasons people are pulling away from the Husayniyah, people are pulling away from the Azaa of Sayyid al-Shuhada, because we have understood the religion on a cultural basis. We have taken the religion as part of culture, and we've thought, yes, this cultural practice falls within the remit of the religion allows it. But when that when that falls within the remit of the religion, it's fine. However, over the years we've lost the essence of the religion. We've lost the essence of what the Imams were. So now we've reserved Sayyid al-Shuhada for Karbala, and only for Karbala, only for crying. We've reserved Amir al-Mu'mineen only to get hyped up. And we've reserved the latter Imams, well, they're the little Imams, so we don't really care about them so much. Because, I don't really know about the life of Imam al-Hadi or Imam al-Jawad or Imam al-Askari. Because they're the latter Imams. And this is all because of culture, this cultural idea that has been brought in and has destroyed the essence of the religion. So in order to reveal the true essence of Karbala, one must learn and slowly peel back those cultural clothings that we have placed over the religion. And you see how people become very touchy about culture. People become very touchy about language. People become, see, all of these things that I'm listing for us are distractions from the actual message. So we have, one of the most easiest examples to give you is the adoption of English within our Husayniyat. Yeah? The adoption of the English language. It's very difficult for people to understand, very difficult for people to say, to cry, for example, in English musibas, oh no, it's not the same. Well, the words are the same. The maqtal is the same. Why is it that I can't cry, but I can cry in, oh no, it doesn't have the pain? I disagree. If it doesn't have the pain, because the words are not of the speaker, the words are the words of the maqtal. Whatever language they're spoken in, the pain is still the same. What took place in Karbala still remains the same. So why is it? It is because we have created this idol of culture that we then worship. And then whatever falls within the remit of that cultural worship, we accept. Whatever falls outside of it, we reject. And we think, no, that can't possibly happen. But yet, it is the change, or the need of the hour is the adoption of that change to some extent. And I'm not saying get rid of all culture and don't start speaking Urdu or don't speak in Punjabi or Saraiki or whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the message of Ahlul Bayt transcends beyond language. It transcends beyond practice. It is something that is universal because it is attached solely to Abu Abdullah. It is attached solely to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result of it being attached to Allah, it becomes eternal. The message itself becomes eternal. It does not require, nor is it in need of words, nor is it in need of practice, cultural. But rather it is something that transcends beyond that. So in order to understand Sayyid al-Shuhada, to understand the message of Sayyid al-Shuhada, we need to first dive deep into who is Hussein. We've asked the whole world this question. We've written on bottles this same question. We've given these bottles out to people. We've given out flowers to people. We've given out leaflets to people, asking everyone in the world the same question, who is Hussein? But yet I argue that we ourselves do not understand who is Imam al-Hussein. Otherwise, had we understood who Abu Abdullah was, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in. Imam Hussein, when you peel back all of those layers that we have attributed to him, he transcends. He is a being that is transcendental. The reason he doesn't apply to any culture, and many get this misconstrued and say, oh no, Abu Abdullah did what he did for humanity. No, he didn't. He did what he did for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result of doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a result of giving everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he transcended and became the savior of humanity. Not the other way round. His guiding force, his aim, everything was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he became beloved to Muslim and non-Muslim alike. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلُ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. The one that does good and believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will place His love in the hearts of the people. He will make him a lovable character, an individual whom is held dear by everyone, even if that person did not know him personally. You look in Karbala, aside from Sayyid al-Shuhada, you have someone like John, who by that society standard had no social standing. He was a freed slave of Hazrat Abu Dhar, who then went into the servitude of Sayyid al-Shuhada. But yet in Karbala, you see the Maqatil say that when John falls, they say, we watched to see what master would do with his slave. And they say, we saw the master come towards him. He takes the head of John in his lap, wipes away the earth from his cheeks, the blood from his teeth, وَضَعَ خَدَّهُ عَلَى خَدِّهِ. He places his cheek on the cheek of John, and John opens his eyes. مَن مِثْلِي مَن مِثْلِي وَابْنُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ وَضَعَ خَدَّهُ عَلَى خَدِّهِ. That who is there like me? Who is there like me? When the son of Rasulullah places his cheek on my cheek. Karbala, Sayyid al-Shuhada, is something that transcends beyond cultural boundaries. Our culture has chained us, has stopped us from becoming free thinkers. To the point now you tell people that the Imams married African women, and people are ready to kill you. How dare you say that the Imams had African mothers? But go and look at the history books. 6th Imam onwards. All the mothers are either North African, are either Sudan or Sudanese. They're either from that part of Africa or they're from the middle part of Africa. In fact, even for the Imam of our time, we hear that she was a princess of Rome. Challenge anyone to find a war that took place between the Muslims and the Romans at that time. There isn't. Along with that narration, it says that there was a war with the Muslims, and and then she came as a prisoner. There isn't one. Roman Empire is well documented. There's another narration though that says no, she wasn't from Rome. It says she was a Sudanese, Berber. The mother of our Imam, our 12th Imam. But what happens is our cultural baggage that we have brought with us does not allow us to transcend beyond colour. We now set the colour as the ma'yar, we set colour as the level through which we judge everything. So, no, he's a bit dark. Can't get married to him. Or she's a bit dark. Can't get married to him. Oh no, he's not white enough. He's not fair enough. Because that's the cultural baggage that we're bringing along. That colonial mindset that we have brought here with us. From the time where India was under colonial rule. That the aspiration was to be like the Farhangi, was to be like the white person there. To be fair. And fair was something good. And so then now that became synonymous with what is good and what is acceptable. But when we learn to transcend, when we learn to let go, when we learn to cut free of these ropes that bind us, now we begin to see Ahlul Bayt in a whole new light. Now we begin to see those in Karbala in a whole new light. Now we begin to understand the religion in a whole new light. And Karbala was all about that transcendence. It was all about that going towards Allah, going over and above what society said. Because society on one side was saying to Sayyid al-Shuhada, no, don't rock the boat. Abdullah ibn Umar comes to the Imam, the son of the second Khalifa, and he says to him, look, Hussein's going to die soon. Just let it be. Let him pass. I'm sure I must have given you guys this example before. He says, let him go. He says, Hussein, Yazid will pass. Leave him. 2 or 3 years, he won't last long. Why don't you just stay quiet and give bay'ah to him? Leave Mecca, go somewhere else, because he was worried about his own standing in Mecca. He knew if Sayyid al-Shuhada stayed in Mecca, there would be a competition. People would all go to Sayyid al-Shuhada. So he urges him to leave. He says, look, why don't you just leave? Go away. Just pay bay'ah to Yazid. And Sayyid al-Shuhada turns around to him and he says, this dunya that you're trying to sell me. It's this very same dunya that sometimes we get bogged down in because of culture. And I'm not saying Indian or Pakistani culture, but culture of the West, or culture of our workplace, culture of anywhere that we are. This culture that bogs us down, it doesn't allow us to see beyond and see the reality of this dunya. Because we've learned to live within it, we've learned to be reliant upon it. He says to Sayyid al-Shuhada, he says, Hussein, why don't you just give bay'ah to Yazid? Problem solved. Imam says, this bay'ah, this dunya that you're trying to sell me, is the same dunya where the head of Yahya Nabi was cut off and presented to a prostitute of his time. Says, this is the dunya you're selling. This is the dunya you're trying to sell me. This is the very same dunya where Bani Israel would kill 70 prophets before sunrise, and between Fajr and sunrise, and then go into their shops as if nothing had happened. And go about their business as though they hadn't done anything. But they'd killed 70 of the messengers of God. says, this dunya you're trying to sell me. Karbala is that transcendence. It's about being above, over and beyond that what is presented to us, to find the essence of Islam, to find the core of the religion. When the people of Kufa write to Sayyid al-Shuhada, and they say to him that, Imam, come to Kufa, we want to make you our Imam, we want to appoint you as our Imam. This one point here shows where the aqidah, where the faith of the people of Kufa, those that wrote and signed that letter, was. Because in the madhab of Ahlul Bayt, we agree that an Imam cannot be elected, cannot be selected by people. Here the people of Kufa are writing a letter saying, Hussein, we want to select you and appoint you as our Imam. And that's where Imam replies back to them in that letter that he sends with Muslim ibn Aqib. Says, Fala Amri, says, I've received your letters of the grass being green and the pastures are ripe and the people are ready to join me. He says, you should know that the Imam, and here the Imam is defining for them, what is an Imam? He said, you should know that an Imam is none other, فَلَا أَمْرِ مَا الْإِمَامِ إِلَّا الْعَامِلُ بِالْكِتَابِ إِلَّا الْعَامِلُ بِالْكِتَابِ وَالدَّائِنُ بِالْحَقِّ وَالْحَابِسُ نَفْسَهُ عِلَى ذَاتِ اللَّهِ. He says, you should know that the Imam is none but the one that orders from the book of Allah, one that follows the religion of God, and one وَالْآخِذُ بِالْقِسْطِ, and establishes justice. وَالْحَابِسُ نَفْسَهُ عَلَى ذَاتِ اللَّهِ, and gives his whole nafs, his whole wujud for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Says that's who an Imam is, not whom you have in your mind. Because the people of Kufa had that cultural understanding, the culture of electing an Imam, electing a leader. But the leaders of God are not elected. And so as a result, they're unable to recognize their Imam, unable to transcend. And there are so many examples in Karbala of individuals who are able to break free of the shackles and transcend towards the Imam and get close to the Imam while being ready for hell. In an instant they come and they join Sayyid al-Shuhada and their whole life changes. You hear of the story of Zuhair ibn Qayn. Zuhair is someone who fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen in Siffin. He is someone that is not even Shia. He is of the Uthmani madhab. And Zuhair is his camp, his tent, his caravan is running parallel to the caravan of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Zuhair ibn Qayn says, I tried to avoid Hussein the whole way. Says, one day I was sitting in the tent with my kinsman, and the messenger of Hussein turned up and said, Zuhair, Aba Abdullah has requested to meet you. Zuhair ibn Qayn says, we all sat as if there were birds upon our heads, and no one dared move. Because he said, I knew what Hussein had sought out, had left, and was seeking to do. And I didn't want any part of it. I was comfortable in my life. I was comfortable in what I was doing. I didn't want any discomfort. I didn't want any problems. I'm putting it into our terms. I was happy with how my life was going. I didn't want to change. Everything was great. Zuhair's wife says to him, Zuhair, the son of Rasulullah calls you and yet you do not move. Zuhair ibn Qayn says to the messenger, he says, tell Aba Abdullah I will come and see him. He says, no, Zuhair, Hussein himself is standing outside the tent. He's come to see you himself. Zuhair ibn Qayn goes out with the Imam. For a few moments they talk, and that conversation isn't noted as to what it is Imam said to Zuhair. But what is noted is that when Zuhair ibn Qayn returns back inside his tent, his kinsmen say it was as if nur, light, was dripping from the face of Zuhair. He turns towards his wife. He says, I have divorced you. Go with my kinsman back to your family and give her all my wealth. He says to his family members, he says, take her back to her family. I give her all my wealth. So Zuhair, what happened to you? He says, I don't care. I'm going with Abu Abdullah. I'm leaving with Sayyid al-Shuhada. His whole life spent on the opposite side. But yet in one moment of sitting with Imam al-Hussein, Zuhair's whole life is changed. But even that's a decent amount of time. Come forward. Hur. Arguably the person who is to blame for them stopping in Karbala. Arguably the person that is the one that caused the thirst of the children of Abu Abdullah. That same Hur, on the morning of Ashura, comes to Abu Abdullah after Salat al-Fajr, not the night. Praise Salat al-Fajr, he comes to Imam al-Hussein. They say that Hur came to Abu Abdullah, his head lowered, and as he approaches Imam al-Hussein, Imam says, Irfa' ra'sak. Hur, raise your head. Why are you coming with such shame? Hur, raise your head. Says Abu Abdullah, I am the one that has brought you here. He says, Hur, doesn't matter. What has happened. Now you have made the decision to come to this side. He says, Yabna Rasulillah, halli min tawbah. Will the tawbah of Hur be accepted? Imam says, Hur, your tawbah is accepted. The moment you took that step out of that life of degradation, after you took that step out of that life of sin, and you came over to Hussein, all that was before has all been forgiven. Look at the time period. The whole time he's with Sayyid al-Shuhada. And then he stops him on the 3rd of Muharram in Karbala. Or the 2nd of Muharram in Karbala. He stops him there until the day of Ashura, until the time of Fajr of the day of Ashura. And then Hur decides to change. And he comes over to Imam al-Hussein. And within moments, Hur goes from someone that is ending up in hell to a person who we now, the world over, people want to name their children after. But even that's a long period of time. Come forward. Everyone has gone. Every shaheed has lost their life from amongst the ashab. And I'm missing out a lot of people, huh? I'm talking about the last moment. Because even before that, when Umar ibn Sa'd arrives on the 4th of Muharram, an individual by the name of Khuzaymah brings a letter from Umar ibn Sa'd to Abu Abdullah. And Abu Thamama Saydawi has a conversation with him. That individual comes in to see Abu Abdullah. Imam al-Hussein reads the letter of Umar ibn Sa'd that has been sent by Ibn Ziyad. Says, will you send a reply? And Abu Abdullah speaks with Khuzaymah for a little while. And Khuzaymah doesn't go back. Says, Sayyid al-Shuhada, I'm with you now. But even that's a long period of time. Come forward. All the Shuhada have gone. Abbas's body lying, Karbala. Ali Akbar's body mutilated, lying on the grounds of Karbala. Ali Asghar slaughtered from ear to ear. His body buried in the earth of Karbala. And Abu Abdullah stands there, هَلْ مِن نَاصَرٍ يَنْصُرُ. Is there anyone that will help us? Say at that moment, two brothers in the army of Yazid, who were individuals that fought against Abu Abdullah, that fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen in the battle of Nahrawan. They were from amongst the Khawarij. They left and they dissented against Amir al-Mu'mineen in Siffin. They leave the army of Yazid, and at that moment, after everyone has gone, these two brothers, they come over towards Sayyid al-Shuhada, and they say, Imam, we've done wrong. They've took part in the whole battle. The whole way they have been there. But yet still, look at this, right at the last moment, Imam al-Hussein is all alone. No one's by his side. Right at the last moment, they leave the army of Yazid, come to Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam, we've done wrong. Imam says all has been forgiven. They turn around, they go back out, start fighting, and they're killed in the way of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And today their names are inscribed upon the Darih, along with the other names of the Shuhada. Such is Abu Abdullah, that he is that individual whoever attaches themselves to him, he takes them from the depth of hell to the heights of Jannah. This is an Imam whom even weeping for him has such great benefit. The narration says the one that does buka upon Abu Abdullah, wails for Imam al-Hussein, for the musibah that he went through. The one that wails for him, or the one that makes people cry, or not even that, says the one that can't cry. And there's reasons why people can't cry. Many a times, the heart becomes hardened. That I can't cry for Imam al-Hussein. When I hear about the musibah of Abu Abdullah, I can't cry. The reason for it is first, the hardening of the heart. And the heart becomes hardened through what? Through excessive sin. When I've lived a life of sin, when I have constantly committed sin, my heart becomes rusty. Now no matter how much I try, tears won't fall from my eyes. So in order for tears to fall from my eyes, I need to first do istighfar. I need to first turn to Abu Abdullah, that, oh Imam, no tears are falling from my eyes. Because the one that drops even a single tear from his eye, equivalent to the wing of a mosquito, Imam al-Baqir says, whoever does that in the way of Abu Abdullah, it will create a shield for that person from the fire of hell on Yawm al-Qiyamah. One single tear for Imam al-Hussein will create a barrier between the fire of hell and that individual. Then it says the one who wails over Abu Abdullah, understanding his right for that individual, he wails over him, he cries over him. Oh, tabaki. Tabaki is another thing. That if you can't cry over Abu Abdullah, if a tear doesn't come out your eye, they say at least lower your head. At least lower your heads when the musibah of Imam al-Hussein is being recited. And even that, even you just lowering your head and making or pretending that you are in a state of sorrow, says understanding why Abu Abdullah went to Karbala, says wajibat lahu al-Jannah. Jannah becomes wajib upon you. It becomes wajib upon you. Even if you can't cry, says just lower your heads and pretend, or just seem like you're in sorrow. Even that is enough for your salvation on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Can you imagine an imam of such greatness that even just lowering your eyes for him, just lowering your head for him, out of remembrance of his sorrows, Jannah becomes wajib for you. And why should the tears not fall? For what befell Ahlul Bayt in Karbala does not even bear thinking about. So many musibahs, so many difficulties that befell the family of Rasulullah. Where does one begin? Where does one end? Does someone start with the musibah of the day of Ashura, or the musibahs that befell Ahlul Bayt after the day of Ashura? That musibah that occurred on the day of Ashura, the killing of Abu Abdullah, the killing of all those members of his family, one by one. Abu Abdullah himself says, "Ana qatilul abarat." He says, "I am the one that was killed," but at every point Hussein was made to cry. For every musibah, Hussein was made to shed a tear. The difficulty of Karbala, others were killed. But Abu Abdullah went to the body of individuals and he wept at every single body. He wept at every single one of those shaheed. If it was just that Ali Akbar, one could understand. But even the 6-month-old child, that 6-month-old child of Abu Abdullah, the one that Imam al-Sadiq says, the one that uses his name 3 times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never rejects the dua of that person, because that child had no sin. He had no sin. That Abu Abdullah comes on the day of Ashura, and you hear, he calls out, "O Zainab, O Kulthum, Nawilini waladi as-saghir, bring for me my youngest son. Bring for me my youngest son so that I may bid farewell to him." Imam al-Hussein, his intention is to bid farewell to his 6-month-old child. But yet I don't know what it is that changed the mind of Imam al-Hussein. They say, maybe it was the appearance of the child, that through thirst the child's skin had become pale, yellow. Because of the thirst and the lack of food, the child no longer could move. The only thing he could do was open and close his mouth. The Maqtal says it was like a fish that has been taken out of water. You see how it moves over and over. Then eventually, as the energy goes from the body, all it can do is open and close its mouth. This was the state of Ali Asghar on the day of Ashura. Abu Abdullah looks down at his son. He says, maybe they may give him a drop of water. He turns back towards the battlefield, and you hear how he holds his son out. Says, "Your boy is with me, not with this child. Why don't you give him a drop of water?" And Hurmala is ordered by Umar ibn Sa'ad. Hurmala, he says, cut off the words of Hussein. Says Umar ibn Sa'ad, who shall I go for? The father or the son? He says, do you see that white spot under the chin of Ali al-Asghar? He says, aim your arrow at that. Hurmala says, I fired a 3-headed arrow at the child. An arrow that is used to cut the necks of camels. Where is the neck of a camel? And where is the neck of a 6-month-old child? Do you know how that arrow affected Ali Asghar? Your Imam says in Ziyaratul Nahiyya, he says, Assalamu ala al-tifl al-radi' madbuh min al-uzn ila al-uzn. Says, my salams be upon that young child, the one that was slaughtered from ear to ear. The arrow enters the mouth of Ali Asghar. It slaughters him from ear to ear. Abu Abdullah looks down towards the child, looks towards the heavens, the blood flowing from the neck of Ali Asghar. He takes the blood of the child. This narration says he threw it towards the heavens. Not a single drop fell down towards the earth. Hussein takes back the child towards the tent. They say 7 times Hussein walked back and forth. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Radamma qadaihi wa tasliman li amri. They say Aba Abdullah dug a grave for the child. He placed the child in the earth from behind him as he began to cover the earth over his son. From behind him he hears a voice, Aba Abdullah, one last time, let me see my son one last time. Rabab comes towards Imam al-Hussein. She sees her child, addresses her child, Bunay Ali, Amithluka yulhar. My son Ali, our children like you slaughtered in the way of the camels. Abu Abdullah buries his child. They say there was no water for Hussein to pull over the grave. وَضَعَ خَدَّهُ عَلَى التُّرَابِ. Hussein places his cheek upon the earth and he begins to cry. The tears from the eyes of Abu Abdullah are the water for the grave of Ali al-Asghar. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of this child of Abu Abdullah to forgive the sins of our parents. Oh Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Those who are in education, make them successful. Oh Allah, keep safe the Zaireen of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Oh Allah, destroy the enemies of Azar around the world. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true mutabiri, his true waiters, for the acceptance of these du'as and any of the du'as of brothers and sisters abroad. Please recite 3 loud salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.